Let's bring in the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Texas Congressman Mike McCaul. Congressman, it's always good to see you, sir. I want to put up this because you wrote this back in September, quoting here about the origins of COVID. It is crystal clear that had the Chinese Communist Party been transparent and had the head of WHO cared more about global health than appeasing the CCP, lives could have been spared and widespread economic devastation could have been mitigated. What do you think about the president jumping back in with the World Health Organization?
Well, let me say first, the Chinese Communist Party and the WHO were complicit in covering up what became a global pandemic. Director General Tedros failed in his fundamental mission, and that was to warn the world about a pandemic. They were warned several times. The international health regulations required this to be for the WHO to be notified, which China never did. And Tedros declined to declare a public health international emergency. So they are responsible for this, and there should be consequences. To your point, though, or your question, Trace, I do think if you want to win the game, you got to be on the field. And I don't think you can take your ball home and effectuate change from within. I think we need to have greater influence within the United Nations, particularly WHO. So I would argue that we should continue to engage with them. However, we should force through our funding mechanisms to call for the resignation of Director General Tedros, who I hold personally responsible for this global pandemic.
Your colleague, the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, had a slightly different take on this. He said that some of the things that the president is doing now are not unifying. Listen to him and I'll get your response.
More interested in appeasing the WHO than getting to the bottom of how China released this virus to the world in the first place. It's the wrong signal that the Biden administration is rewarding failure. These are the wrong priorities at the wrong time.
One, he's saying it's rewarding failure, and two, saying it's not unifying. What do you make of that?
Well, I chaired the China task force. We came out with recommendations. One was that we had to engage with the WHO, but we call for the resignation of its leader who failed in the mission. I do think that we need to get to the bottom of what happened. We may never know the answer because the fact is, Trace, that the Chinese Communist Party immediately went in, arrested, detained doctors, got retractions. They destroyed lab samples. They destroyed, quite frankly, all the evidence at that lab that's centrally in question where the virus could have come out of that then infiltrated the Wuhan wet market. And we need to get answers to those questions. But I think moving forward, Fauci praises the WHO. I would not take that tact at all. But we do need to reform the WHO. And most importantly, if we have international health regulations, then the countries who are involved in WHO need to comply with those regulations. China did not, and there should be consequences to those actions.